Who's friends with all the night dreamers, talking to you at night. Gary on the radio, but maybe he's not in sight. Bigfoot's on his tail, flying UFOs, that's right. Gary's Talk Show Radio, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Dreamers Talk Show will fix your despair. If you want to talk conspiracies, Night Dreamers is for you. Top secret case, alien space, it's Gary with the news. Tune in on the radio, don't let Big Brother know. They're listening to everything, even Gary's late night show. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Show Dreamers Talk Show will fix your despair, because Gary's talking to you at night.
You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, the home of Night Dreams Talk Radio, with Gary Anderson, syndicated worldwide. Paranormal Talk Radio, like you remember.
Well, it is February the 7th already, JC. We're in a time warp or something going on, because it seems as like it was Christmas yesterday.
It was, don't you know? We have that, what's it called? Negative time now.
Yeah, okay. Negative time, positive time. You know, a Harvard scientist has uncovered about depression. You know, a lot of it, people think, oh, it's this chemical imbalance. It could be, mental. Now he's saying a lot of it could be because of bacteria in your gut.
You know what? There's all kinds of studies coming out there. It reminds me when you used to talk about the grants that we get to study all this interesting stuff, but you never know. Who knows? Depression through the gut. There you go.
Well, maybe those grants are going to be gone too. You know that. I
do know that. And listen, they've got grants for everything, as you well know.
Hey, well, how about the one I was just reading today where they trained a dog, to drive a car for $500,000?
You know, that reminds me of the gerbils that they in Venezuela that they trained.
Oh, those rats. Remember, they did rats.
Oh, rats.
And then they found that rats got road rage like humans do.
They got out and
you dirty rat. Yeah, I mean, you think about that.
I know it. Isn't that something? To get grants for that stuff, that's amazing.
You know, monkeys actually can drive a car. It's better than my wife.
Yeah, Linda's listening right now,
She probably is, along with a lot of other people. We got Guy Ticker with the news, so let's do the news, and then we're going to get back with Ron tonight. We're going to talk about UAP whistleblowers and what's going on. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after Guy Ticker with the news.
Diving into the headlines of the mysterious and unexplained, this is The Unseen News with Guy Ticker, where the extraordinary is just the beginning. A woman has claimed to have filmed UFOs in the sky over Devon, England, and said the mysterious flying objects moved like nothing she had seen before. She said, and I quote, "I filmed the UFOs. They moved like nothing I've ever seen." Close quote. Denise Betty took the video after she noticed a number of lights in the sky while leaving a car park in Clearbrook in the morning. As she was getting into the car, she noticed 3 lights moving across the sky and began filming them as they appeared over the hills in the distance. Denise watched the lights in the sky for a few minutes before they vanished from the sky altogether. Devon Live reported that she added, quote, "We noticed it as we were getting in the car. I saw 3 lights, got my phone out, 2 had disappeared, and then we got in the car and 3 lights appeared again and just disappeared again." Betty went on to say, quote, "They floated left and right before seeming to reduce into just 2 balls of white light that floated away miles into the distance." Close quote. No one can explain what they might be. And that wraps up tonight's top news story. I'm Guy Ticker on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. He's a filmmaker, on-camera personality, writer, editor, researcher, content creator, and entrepreneur. He is Ron James. His new documentary, Accidental Truth, UFO Revelations, narrated by Matthew Modine, has won 28 Film Festival awards and was recently mentioned by name at the beginning of the latest UAVP congressional hearing by Representative Tim Burchett. The film has been called one of the most important UFO documentaries of all time. It lays out the case for legacy programs and the truth behind the headlines that the film seems to predict. James is a regular guest in many related podcasts and TV shows, including Ancient Aliens and more. He works with shows such as The Unexplained, The Proof is Out There, Skinwalker Ranch, and more. Ron James is the co-founder of MUFON Television, an online TV channel boasting the world's largest collection of commercial-free UAP-related material. He's created many feature-length documentaries and dozens of original independent series episodes. He's won 42 national awards, including 4 EBE Awards, the Telly Award, and the Aegis Award for Excellence in Broadcasting 4 times. He currently makes his own shows, including Bigger Questions, Spacetime, MUFON Presents, and more. The sequel to Accidental Truth, called Accidental Truth Next, will again be narrated by Matthew Modine and will be released in late spring, early summer 2025.
Well, Ron, welcome back to the show. Gee, it's been, about 4 years since you've been on?
It's been a while. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, so what is going on with UAPs, flying discs, flying saucers, orbs and all this stuff? What is going on out there?
I suspect it's the same thing that's been going on since the early days of the UFO phenomenon in the United States. We're just getting more and more access to it, and it's becoming something that's gaining mainstream traction, so it's getting a lot more attention.
Well, it sure has gotten more attention, since Lou's book came out than it has in years. I tell you that I'm glad to see it because, years ago, I remember going back 20 years ago, somebody started talking about a flying saucer. People would stare at that person and going, I wonder what hospital they got out of. And that's totally changed.
Well, that just shows how effective the conditioning was, because back when they were trying to figure out how to keep this from society through these closed door groups, the ridicule factor was a big part of it. Let's just make jokers and make fun of anybody that wants to come forward with this story, tinfoil hats and crazy people and exaggerated abduction stories. And that was very, very effective for a really long time.
Well, I still have my collection of tinfoil hats. You know that, Ron.
Well, I don't, but I'd like to see pictures.
Yeah, I was lying about that. But, again, I've actually known people that actually did that. I knew a guy, seriously, if you went into his house, it was all tin foil, aluminum foil, all the ceilings,
Sure.
The walls and everything. And he did it because he thought they were telecommuting to him.
Well, the sad thing is he probably was right. All of us are being infiltrated every day by all manner of electronic beams. We don't even know if we feel good or not.
Yeah, that's the scary thing. I think a lot of people that depression and all types of illnesses are brought on everything from your cell phone to Wi-Fi to hotspots, you name it, to who knows what's going on out there.
Honestly, I'm surprised that we're not affected by it in a noticeable manner. They say that it's all harmless, doesn't bother us. But is that really true? I've actually experimented with this. I've gone out places where I'm completely as far away from that stuff as I can get just to see if I feel different and if the voices in my head go away. It doesn't seem to work. I still feel the same.
Interesting. What do you think? They're talking about something major supposed to happen at the end of this month. Do you have any thoughts what it could possibly be?
Well, if you follow the history of disclosure optimism, and the history of public hype, something major is supposed to happen pretty much every other month. So, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Again, like I was telling you before we went on the air, I've been doing this for 56 years now. And I've interviewed thousands of people on this subject through the years. And here's the thing. I believe there is a lot of legitimate people out there spreading the word what's going on. But then again, there's always been a certain amount that spread disinformation. And what kind of concerns me, there's certain people out there that their stories flop like the wind, for 6 months a year, they're saying this, and all of a sudden it's this, then it's that, and it's back to this and back to that. And that
Well, what's odd about that is that these very people, and I'm not going to name names, so nice try.
I broke my toe.
They managed to carry the narrative for a while. They get a whole bunch of traction. They get a whole bunch of people following them, and then when the whole thing implodes, people just give them a pass, and then they're back with another major announcements down the road. So I think there's a lot of people that are in this field that are doing the best they can. And we're all struggling with the biggest deception facing humanity and the biggest question facing humanity. And, I don't really believe that that good-hearted people are not capable of making mistakes. And we're all told things that we try to take to the bank and that sometimes we share. I got lambasted a while back because a guy gave me some images that he said were from a UFO crash, and it turned out they were made from a model kit. And it took like 10 minutes for the web to figure it out. So I was lucky I didn't pass it along as being that I thought it was genuine. But what I'm saying here, Gary, is that there's a lot of people out there that are trying their best to bring something. And we're being fed this recycled disinformation, a little bit of truth buried in a big nugget of BS. And this has been going on for so long that none of us know what we can count on. None of us know what the actual whole truth is. And we just do the best we can to try to bring forth good information.
Well,
and we don't always succeed.
You know what it's going to take, and I say this so many times, it's going to take one of these to crash in a populated area where they can't hide it. Unless they decide to nuke the area and say that something happened that way to try to cover it up. But I mean, if you really think about it, that's about the only way we're going to get the truth. And what really scares me is that the government, let's be honest here, they're not going to come clean because, like I've said this on the show so many times, Ron, if they come clean today, then people are going to wonder about the government going back 70 years, 100 years. How many times have we been lied to on everything?
They can't just come out and admit what they've done. There's too many people that would be accountable. There's literal crimes against humanity that have been committed in concealing this technology. And, everybody that's in the field now that's talking about it, Richard Dolan talks about it a lot. There's this deep layer of accountability that nobody wants to face. So there's three things that's going on. One is humanity is going to have to be made aware that we're not alone before it becomes so obvious that there's no more denying it, and it didn't come from people we're supposed to trust, which is something they want to avoid. But then the other thing is they have to reshape the narrative so that all of the people that would be held accountable are off the hook. When they came out with the ATIP stuff in 2014, or 2017, that was their attempt to do this. They thought that we could reshape the narrative. We come out and we go, oh, look, the Navy just started looking into this. We've been doing this work. Nothing happened between Project Blue Book and today. That's all we're just now looking at it. And unfortunately, that new narrative, it didn't fly. Too many people caught it. And so now they're coming out with admitting legacy programs and all this other stuff because they have no choice. When I made Accidental Truth, I blew the lid off all that stuff. And we've got Lou Elizondo back then saying in the film, he's like, well, government and industry are just finally going to start looking at this. And I look back at that clip from Accidental Truth and I look at now and the things that are being said. And I'm like, how could you possibly have ever said that knowing what you know? And so it's just an illustration of how the narrative's been manipulated. And the narrative they're trying to sell us keeps changing depending on how well what they're saying goes over.
Well, that's the whole point. Again, I'll be honest with you. I watch the circus, and I call it the circus with the Congress. Because, they brought all these people in from the Pentagon, the CIA, and all this stuff. Did Roswell happen? No, Roswell never happened. We have no proof. It never happened. We never recovered a crashed UFO. We never recovered any bodies. It one after another. But, if you really think about it, if you want disclosure, 1947, we had disclosure. We really did.
Yeah, for about 5 seconds, right?
Yeah. Well, can you imagine, though, that probably was the ending of somebody's career in the military for ranking, because let's face it, went to AP, that's Associated Press, and they announced that they had wreckage of a UFO. Could you imagine the Pentagon, the president, running into the bathroom real quick?
Well, I think back then, this wasn't something that they really had a lot of experience in dealing with. So there was all kinds of flying saucer flap going on at the time. For years and years, the flying saucer thing was very big. A lot of people don't understand this, that back in the 40s and going into the 50s, flying saucers were big news. They were all over the press. There were tons of books written about them. The flap about flying saucers was as big then as it is now. And that culminated in what happened with Kenneth Arnold's sighting and Roswell. And then all of a sudden, this group needed to be formed to deal with the reality of it. And ever since then, we're living with the remnants of the decisions they made. But the interest in UAP that we're seeing now, this is not new. It goes in stages. And it kind of rises and falls. It's sort of like stock market or Bitcoin. It's up and down over time. And the story they have told us every single time has been the same story. But they can't keep doing it anymore because the cat's out of the bag and we know better. And the lies they can only be so blatant. At some point they have to really start giving us more and more nuggets of truth.
Well, yeah, because they can't keep covering it up, but it's going overboard. Like with the drone thing, it was everywhere. It was on the news, on the radio, on cable channels, TikTok, Facebook, on X, you name it. It was for like 2.5 weeks, driving me crazy. Everywhere you looked, you were seeing pictures of drones. And now, it came out and, the president said, well, what it was is we were experimenting with some of them. Some of them were commercial, this or that. And now you don't see it anymore. You go on X, you go on to, TikTok, you don't see any of these drones anymore. But people overreacted on those drones, too. I mean, that poor guy has shot one down and is getting sued by Walmart. I mean, people really overreacted on this.
Well, it's just an example of the kind of things that go on. There was the FAA actually cleared an air corridor in that area from the ocean all the way through into New Jersey, and an air corridor that was there just for doing drone experimentation. Now, I'm not saying that all these drones were that and that they stayed in the area they were supposed to stay in, but the explanation that they're just research stuff for private industry, for cutting edge government drone programs, that they don't have to give us the details. They're not going to give us the details, but that's the most likely explanation.
Yeah, but
I think what bothers me the most is how so many people, not all, were just eager to latch on to some kind of ET connection to these things, and they're still doing it. It's the drones, it's the orbs. It's the orbs that look like drones. It's the orbs that look like drones that look like orbs that look like drones, and they're all ET, and they're talking to me. It's like, this might be a case where they're drones.
I think that's what it was. But again, maybe it was overdone for a reason to kind of discredit the UAP situation, to take people off the UAP to now the drones, which a lot of people associated the drones with, from out there.
Well, let's face it, the drones were UAP. By its very definition, they're unidentified aerial phenomenon. So the fact that they got so much attention is interesting. And, there could be a whole lot of reasons why they were flying these things. And it could be a combination of things, including social experiments to see what kind of reaction they were going to get, testing new technology. There's drones out there. A lot of people don't know it. There's hydrogen-powered drones. There's drones that can stay afloat for 2 hours plus. There are drones that are manufactured. You can go on the internet and find them that are the size of small SUVs, and they're being used in all kinds of commercial applications. So I think a lot of it was the public didn't really understand the extent of drone technology. And so when they see these big, giant, car-sized drones, they're like, wait a minute, I've never seen that before. And so, yeah, there was a lot that went on, but I think we can't be told everything. The government has a right to keep some things secret, classified technology, things like that. So when the president comes forward and says, yeah, they were FAA cleared things, it was research, okay, that's good enough for now.
Well, again, how naive would a person have to be, which there's a lot out there. I'm going to make some enemies right now, to think that we are the only intelligent life, period, on this rock. And
well, I think the case for non-human intelligence engaging humanity is pretty much been proven at some level. Just because the drone thing was not necessarily that, at least in full, doesn't mean that we're not making a lot of progress towards that acknowledgement. I think that we may at some point soon get some sort of official acknowledgement that, hey, there's life. Maybe they'll find something on Mars. It's going to be a little thing like that. And then the next thing that's going to happen is the acknowledgement of non-human intelligence. And then the debate is going to come to, well, what are they? And we're having this argument right now about, are they spiritual in nature? Are they angelic? Are they demonic? Are they physical aliens? Are they coming from another time?
But when I hear that, the first thing is when people start talking that way, that's when they're frustrated. They can't put their fingers on what the thing is. I hear it all the time, like with Bigfoot, that they're not flesh and blood. Again, we have to look at, we're not the only people in the campground.
And our understanding of physical reality, time and space, when people say Bigfoot's not, physical, I kind of laugh because everybody that's ever said they've been close to one says they stink. So,
well, I saw one in the early 2000s with my friend who was a medical doctor. His father was a Superior Court judge in Pierce County. His brother was a criminal attorney. I'm saying enough right there where people might be able to trace it down. We were in the Canadian Rockies, and I'm telling you, they do exist. You're not going to find them at your local campground or picnic ground. You got to go way out. But it's the same way with, I hear this all the time about UFOs and aliens, that, they don't exist, that we are the only intelligent creatures, period. And that really upsets me because they're living in a bubble.
I think that if you were to ask the majority of scientists today, and even the majority of people, if that's true, scientists will say the odds of there being no other life in the universe, intelligent life, is practically zero. The odds that they're visiting us, well, that's up for debate among scientists, but most of them will agree that it's very unlikely that we're alone in the universe.
And then, you know what? You should be on doing my interviewing on my show. I've interviewed a lot of scientists, a lot of the stargazers, very famous ones, and you talk to them about ET or UFOs. The first thing out of their mouth is, nope, I never seen one. They don't exist. JC, that happened a week ago, even.
Yeah, it did actually. But yeah, it's give or take. Some of them think there is, but yeah, there was a hardcore one last week that hasn't seen one. They don't exist.
Yeah, but the majority of them will tell me they don't exist, and then I feel really sorry for them. I really do, because they're narrow-minded. They're I don't know.
Closed-mindedness is the enemy of understanding any of this. Closed-mindedness in beliefs, closed-mindedness in the application of science, all of it is detrimental to being willing to discover the truth and then knowing it when you see it. And so one of the things that we're going to have to do collectively to get past this is we're going to have to open our minds and be willing to wrap our heads around completely new ideas and do it in such a way that we don't feel threatened and we're not clinging to what we believe more than we're open to what we're being shown. And I hope we're in that time.
Another thing that's clouding this up is AI. For years, I've had every phony looking picture of UFOs and videos sent to me. But then now they are getting so good. Even with my software I will have to sometimes spend hours looking at something to distinguish, hey, this is not real. I mean, that is really scary Because it's just not on UFOs. I mean, if you look at on TV, some of the commercials you're seeing are all AI. That's not a real person. That's an image of a real person, but it's now AI. That is scary because it's going to cloud this whole thing up all the more.
Well, the day that we would be able to tell if an image was genuine or not, even video files, audio files, those days are gone. We're never going to be able to look back at, like we were able to look back at a piece of black and white photography with a negative and paper and analyze it in such a way that we could make conclusions. At this point in time, we're close to the age where you're just not going to be able to trust anything that you see with your eyes or hear. It's just getting too good, and anything can be created. And there's a lot of people out there that prosper from that. So I don't know what the next source of verification we're going to have, short of having a physical craft land someplace where we can all get our hands on it. But yeah, photos, videos, they're almost meaningless at this point.
Well, it's getting that way because, again, I literally, during the course of the week, I probably get 50 to 100 images from people. And, you know, what makes it really bad is the person that doesn't know anything about photography. And they go outside with their cell phone or their camera and they see what they think is a UFO. But it could be a lot of things, like a passenger jet aircraft coming and then making a turn. And then all of a sudden that UFO disappeared. It could be helicopters. It could be, you know, drones. It could be a lot of different things out there. But the skies, it has gotten so polluted now. If you go out, even here where I'm at in Gig Harbor, Washington, when all those drone things were going, I sent my son out to go on, you know, to get some pictures of the sky. He came back and there were some drones in it late at night. I mean, you know, again, you know, 5-10 years ago, you didn't see that type of pollution.
No, that's true. But then, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of drones, if not millions, being owned by a lot of people in the country. And there's a lot of companies that are making drones. And so, you know, we kind of find ourselves in a situation now where they're going to be very common. And if we don't get used to them now, we're going to be getting used to them pretty soon because they're going to be delivering stuff in our backyards. So the idea that we're just going to have to adapt to drones everywhere, that's coming. And maybe that's what part of this thing was about, was to see how people are going to adapt to the idea that drones are going to be in the skies all the time.
Well,
and, you know, Amazon's going to be delivering stuff.
Yeah. You hear that Amazon and UPS separated? They're not going to use, UPS is not going to service Amazon anymore. And Amazon says, well, we'll use drones for delivery. So,
yeah, and you know, Amazon's got such a big delivery network. They're probably competing with UPS anyway. Might be why that is.
Yeah.
But, you know, the other thing you were mentioning about all these things in the sky that people were photographing, I have to, MUFON, you know, I'm the media relations director for MUFON. And what that means is I talk to the press when it's necessary. And I work behind the scenes on all the TV shows that MUFON contributes content to, which is a lot. Like The Proof Is Out There, The Unexplained, Ancient Aliens. So I'm one of the people that people go to for answers on this. We did a lot of analysis, and we have to agree that there's a lot of videos out there that are clearly commercial airplanes. They're jets, they're helicopters. When the government has come out and said that's what they are, misidentification in a lot of cases, it's true. And we've analyzed these things. We have the best photo and video analysts for UAP in the world, and we came to that conclusion as well.
Oh, yeah. We need to take a break. This is about 4 minutes long, and then we're going to come back with Ron, and we're going to continue. And at the top of the hour, too, if you want to call in and ask Ron questions about his latest video, it's going to be coming out, and all this stuff, we're going to have fun here tonight on Night Dreams Talk Radio. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Time slips. A haunted office building on a haunted street. A haunted coal town. Mysterious black cats. Unexplained light anomalies. UFOs, UAPs in the air and on the ground. Bridges in liminal spaces. Cryptids, shamans, and a werewolf. Disclosure: You don't need a ranch in Utah. All this and more happens in rural southwestern Pennsylvania. Coming soon from Haunted Hills and Hollows 1 and 2 author Kevin Paul, Politics and the Paranormal in Greene County, Pennsylvania. Available this fall on Amazon and at other fine booksellers.
Hey, this is April, the Psychic Housewife of New Jersey. Listen to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary Anderson.
Welcome to Night Dreams Talk Radio with the legendary Gary Anderson. From UFOs to Bigfoot and everything in between, we explore the strange, the mysterious, and the unexplained. Join us for one of the fastest growing shows in the world of the unknown.
And we are back. And to the person who wanted to know where I saw the Bigfoot was in the Canadian Rockies, there was a Japanese internment camp during World War II. That's a hint. You can look it up on Google. That's where we encountered that hairy creature, the hairy man, or my ex-mother-in-law. Anyway, we're back, Ron. And, again, back a few years ago, there was a guy. I'm not going to slam the guy. I'm not going to mention his name. But every time he was out in Las Vegas, which is almost every weekend, he would go out there with a video camera. And he would sit there and get pictures of UFOs, videos of UFOs. It was all over YouTube, everywhere, the media. I had him on my show. And I actually looked at his videos and really went into it. And I got skeptical. They looked like a helicopter. The dip, the lighting on it. And then I started calling up the international airport in Las Vegas, and they referred me to the military, which referred me to the nuclear regulatory, and I actually talked to a lady who knew what was going on. And she explained, back in the 50s and 60s, they detonated around Area 51 a lot of nuclear weapons. And what they're doing is they send out periodically helicopters. They do it at night to monitor the ground for radiation if it's seeping through. Again, but this guy literally had thousands of people, and he probably still does, believe that every night there's UFOs flying around the hills of Las Vegas. And that, again, does damage for what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do for all these years. I just don't do this because I like talking about it. I want to get disclosure out there as much as anybody does.
Well, Uri Geller put out a message in the height of the drone activity saying that he was told by people that he knew that this was some kind of radiation sniffing drone. And at the time that came out, I was working with another very famous journalist I won't mention his name, but he testified at the last hearing. And we were comparing notes as we tried to get to the bottom of the whole thing. I set him up with an interview with some of our people from MUFON. And when I told him that that there was a good chance that this was, radiation sniffing drones that were out just doing their thing, the resistance to that possibility was off the charts. I was really surprised. And for, being a journalist, clinging to something that you believe is like the one thing you don't do. And I did a little more research, and the United States government actually bought a bunch of car-sized drones that are capable of sniffing radiation at distances for use in Europe and Ukraine, and we have them. And so, people were saying, oh, well, maybe there's some loose material that, maybe there's some kind of disaster and they're not telling us. That story got a little bit out of hand, but maybe they were just testing these things. Who knows? But they do exist. And it's just another example of always be willing to accept the logical explanation, because it's most likely going to be the real explanation. MUFON gets thousands and thousands of UFO reports. 93 to 96% of them we can explain. And so any kind of eagerness to embrace the extreme possibilities is bad for the advancement of the field, and it's bad for the people that do it, really.
Well, they do have their few minutes of fame. And then, God, I hate to be them afterwards.
Yeah. Well, look, any time that you're putting out deception to gain whatever, and there's a lot, in the field for a while, and again, I'm not going to mention any names, but it seemed like the more outrageous the story was, the more impossible it is to prove, the bigger audience you are able to draw. And so we had a whole period of time when some of the most outrageous stories were coming forth, and huge audiences were gobbling the stuff up. And it's really sad, because I'm not saying, okay, these things didn't happen, these people are liars. In some cases, they've proven to be. But the fact that people are so willing to put their attention on the most far out esoteric explanations for this stuff and do it in far greater numbers is kind of scary. It makes me question the field sometimes.
It makes me feel quite a bit, especially in my field, again, being a commercial broadcaster, then doing podcasts now because I'm retired, or supposed to be retired. But what's interesting is that
you can't retire, Gary. None of us can stop.
Well, December 6th, I died twice. I had 2 major heart attacks.
Wow.
And was brought back, or I could be a ghost right now. I don't know. And, I sat back, do I want to end the show or not? And this is in my blood. I've been doing this since the early 70s. But, again, what you have is literally millions of podcasts out there. And everybody's trying to get famous in podcasts now. And they jump onto whatever the hottest subject is. And I listen to these people, and it turns my stomach, because 90% of their guests they bring on, I don't know where they're finding them, maybe in a dark cave somewhere, they're literally lying. And they don't, it's really good maybe you get people to listen. But again, I want the truth. I want to have what is really going on. I want to know. And when you get all this bull out there, it really clouds it. It really does. It makes it harder. And you know what? If there is a secret government or whatever, the Pentagon or whoever, okay, they probably love this more now than ever.
Because there's nothing better than a community that eats its young and implodes on itself. That's one of the reasons there's been this infiltration into the UFO community by people like Richard Doty and people, others, to upset us and keep us arguing with each other about stuff and keep us dysfunctional. MUFON, I'm their media relations director. I'm very involved in the organization, but there is no secret that it's monitored constantly. We're not sold out to the government that I know of, and I think I'd know, but are they keeping an eye on us? Absolutely. And have they infiltrated our ranks over time? And has it happened in the past? Absolutely. So there's a benefit to keeping the UFO community dysfunctional. And there's been an operation to make sure that happens. And so when you have people gobbling up these wild stories that we just simply cannot prove or even find good evidence for, they're feeding that machine of disinformation and confusion.
Well, a good friend of mine was Art Bell. And, we would talk a lot. In fact, he's the one that got me out of retirement and back in doing what I did here before he passed.
This show is like the descendant of Art's show, isn't it?
Kind of. I kind of have the same type of format he has. I make it more enjoyable, on the show, because I don't want to give out a lot of hype. I want people to listen and feel relaxed, and that's the whole point of the show. But, even going back to his day, he would bring guests on. He knew that they were feeding a lot of what. But it was entertainment. That's what he said. It was entertainment. And he sat there and, it has really muddied the water. Going back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, in the 50s, okay? This has been ongoing. It isn't going to stop. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. Well, one thing, if you want to get to it at some point, ask me anything, but I can share some information with you that nobody knows.
Okay, well,
I can also share some information with you that's going to come out in my movie just by telling the story of what I've been doing in Washington, D.C. and some of the interesting behind the scenes things that I've been involved in. There's going to be some things that come out in the next film that are pretty cool.
Well, let's find out. What did he find out that you can share with me and my listeners?
All right. So here's one. I've put this out a little bit, but I think I did it on Patrick's show, Vetted, but I haven't talked about it a lot. Lou Elizondo came out when Imminent was released, and he went with Ross Coulthart and did a story about how he had an implant, and he showed the implant and talked a little bit about it. What people don't know is that way back when, I was part of the group that gave him that implant. And so the whole story of what happened to it, very few people know. But we're telling the story in Accidental Truth next of how the implant originated. We have an interview with the person who had it removed. And we also tell the story about how it was secreted away by TTSA. Gary Nolan got it and refused to look at it for a variety of reasons. And then it came back. But it definitely, and we have photos of the implant with the little hairs coming out of it that Lou talks about. And so we have the rest of the story around that. And, we can corroborate most of what Lou said. And so that's an interesting thing that's going to be coming out in the movie. And here's something else.
Okay,
you're going to love this. During the recent hearings, we had run into Eric Burleson the night before the hearings. One of my friends and Melinda Leslie ran into him at a restaurant, and it came up that he was going to be on the committee asking questions the next day. So he was like, well, do you have any ideas, what I should ask? So we were there at the hearings. We got in, we were in the back of the room. And when Eric Burleson's chance to talk to Lou Elizondo came up, we were texting him the questions in real time to ask Lou. And when he asked him about Lockheed Martin divesting themselves of the materials, going to Bigelow Aerospace, and Lou acknowledged that was true, that was what we call in my world an accidental truth. We because he didn't mean to acknowledge that Lockheed Martin was the source and the people that had that material, but through texting, we were in real time feeding questions to the congressman, and we got that accidental truth admission into the record, into the testimony, and that was us sitting in the back of the room. Bah, 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 bah. And we have all the screenshots of the text and everything to prove it. It's going to come out in the movie. But I was joking with Lou later because, the reason I named Accidental Truth was because a lot of people said something that they didn't mean to say in a kind of not a gotcha way, but they're all still talking to me. But anyway, that was another accidental truth. And I'm like, Lou, I was sitting in the back of the room while you were testifying to a congressional hearing live in front of the world, and I still got you to spill the beans.
How did he take that when he realized he spilled it?
Well, he tried to walk it back in the next questions, but I saw him afterwards. I said he had a special event, and we actually brought Eric Burleson to the event, and he spoke at it which Lou I thought was pretty cool. So he's very aware of that. There's a certain cosmic connection that's been obvious for a while between the first time I interviewed him and some of the paths that we've crossed together.
Again, what frustrates me is, who do you believe on whistleblowers? I mean, how do you distinguish who's telling the truth? Because
look, it's like this. Anybody with a military background that's coming forth, be it the Mellon, Lou Elizondo, all these guys, Hal Puthoff, Jim Semivan, all the guys coming out when TTSA came out, and all the people that you're seeing now that have to get David Grush, that have to get their statements approved before they can come out. They're believable to a point, but they're also revealing an authorized narrative. Everybody involved in this cover-up very clearly understands that humanity's got to be informed of the existence of non-human intelligence engaging us. But how far does that go, and how can we tell them as little as possible while still getting the basic fact across? And so these people are allowed to say these things, and they're allowed to say these things by the same people that have been keeping this stuff a secret. Sooner or later, civilian technology is going to be able to detect these things in the sky. That's why we have Skywatch coming out doing that. Jake Barber's involved. And sooner or later, somebody's going to land a commercial spacecraft on Mars or on the moon that's not military and not NASA, and they're going to find stuff. And sooner or later, these things are going to be so prevalent.
Okay, but look at what happened when we went to the moon. A famous astronaut started talking about these craft on the other side of a crater, and he was told to basically shut up and switch over to the medical channel.
Right.
Again, why would he be talking about craft on the moon? Large craft. There's disclosure there. We also had disclosure of, look at the flybys over Washington, D.C. in 50 or whatever it was. We had the disclosure there. You had Roswell, and what really frustrates me when I get some ufologists on the show, somebody famous, which I've had some very famous ones on, and I'll start talking about that stuff. And you know what they say to me? But Gary, that don't count. That happened, 47 years ago or whatever. That's irreverent. But I mean,
it doesn't count because it's not officially disclosed and acknowledged by everybody. So in other words, yeah, when I made my first film about disclosure was actually back in like 2010. It was called The Disclosure Dialogues, and it won the EBE Award, People's Choice and Best Documentary in 2012. And at the end of it, it was like, disclosure's already happened. The rest is details. And this was back when Obama was president. We've been through this situation where anybody that really wants the information, if it's you, if it's me, if it's a ufologist that's doing his research, the people keeping the secrets have been telling us. They haven't been telling us in a very concise manner. They haven't been telling us in a way that we can just put it down in the record and that's, human history moving forward. But the information has been out there. You have to separate the wheat from the chaff, facts from fiction. But the legacy programs, reverse engineering, non-human craft, all of these things, the UFO community, maybe 40,000 of us worldwide that really care about this, they have been given the truth, but not in such a way that we can put it into the textbooks and put it into the history books, and the course of humanity is now based on that. But the people that have been lying to us all along have also been telling us pretty much anything we wanted to know. We just have to know where to look, who to listen to, and how to discern. And getting that out to the mainstream population, that's the challenge.
It really is. But, again, they sign a non-disclosure when they're in the military on certain, and I would think of some of these whistleblowers, that have been on different podcasts making some wild claims. I would think they would be in handcuffs and in a back room being, talked to.
No, because they're not saying anything that they haven't been given permission to say. David, one thing that people don't realize, David Grush didn't just pop on the scene. In Accidental Truth, in Accidental Truth Next, I went back to New York and re-interviewed Ralph Blumenthal specifically about David Grush. And Ross Coulthart broke this on TV. Ralph Blumenthal broke it in print. And it was at the same time. This was a year or more of going back and forth with David about how the story, vetting him, getting exactly what he was going to be able to say. He had to work with the Department of Defense. He had to work with his attorneys. And Jake Barber, that was 2 years. So these aren't just these guys coming forward going, oh, by the way, I'm going to tell this story. They're in this process that is being looked at by everybody that's involved, the DOD, the handlers of the information, the chain of command, the people that manage the classification. Everybody's involved in this. So there's no guy that just walks out of a lab at Lockheed and runs to the newspaper with a piece of material in his hand. It's not happening like that. And so when we see these whistleblowers that just pop up, they didn't just pop up. This stuff has been in the works for quite a while. Even the 2017 stuff, in the works for a long time. Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Kean met with Lou Elizondo way before this thing went out. And it took a long time to process the information. And then, of course, we had TTSA waiting in the wings, which, according to Imminent in Lou's book, he says that was kind of a coincidence. I question that. I think that the TTSA deal was ready to go before he submitted his letter of resignation. But, that's just my opinion. So anyway, what I'm saying is, and maybe sorry for being so long-winded, what I'm saying is that all of these things that look like spontaneous instances of whistleblowing and disclosure are not. They are very carefully orchestrated and managed. And the reason these guys from DOD are not sitting in a jail cell is because they're still doing what they're told.
And that's the scary part, too. I mean, again, it's going to take a brave person to come out with some type of document, some type of proof to lay it out. And undoubtedly they're going to have to sacrifice whatever. That's another thing. Again, if you go back in the 80s and 90s, some of these people that actually even then were whistleblowers, bad things happened to them.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you watched I was also at the hearing with Senator Gillibrand when she was talking to the new people from Arrow. And right to his left in the camera shots is Susan Guff. I think that's how you pronounce her name. It's either Guff or Gal. She's been the spokesperson for the Pentagon, and she has always been the one that comes forward and denies everything. And for her to be sitting there at the same time they're telling the world that it's okay if you're a whistleblower to come forward to Arrow, they've got her sitting right there in the shot. A lot of people that I've talked to clearly believe that was a message that you better not. And so supposedly the path is clear. I have a video that I'm going to be releasing shortly where Kirsten Gillibrand actually looked in my camera like she was talking to an audience and said, if you are a whistleblower, you can come forward, we will protect you, and gave her word and her promise that we could work with Arrow. She believes in Arrow. But again, is that really true? Can you really come forward?
I don't know. That again, there was a bunch of pilots that came forward, when Tic Tac came out. And and then there's hardly been anything. And again, are they scared to come out, or, was it real what they were saying in the first place? That's another thing. I have my doubts on some of this stuff yet.
I don't know. I mean, are pilots lying? It's like, that's hard to believe. But
no, I'm not saying them lying. I'm just wondering what is going on. Again, I talked to a retired general. It was in the Pentagon in the Air Force, 2-star general. And he was going to write a book, but he couldn't get clearance. And he was going to come on my show, but then at the last moment, we talked a couple hours, and he said, I just can't do it. He was worried about his safety of his family. Mm-hmm. But, what he made some really interesting claims. Some of these crashes that were reported as training. He said they weren't training. They were actually in pursuit of some of these objects. And, and then the planes were literally just like destroyed in air, and they put it down as training.
But here's a really interesting conundrum. When I first was making Accidental Truth, and all the way up until then, even when I was interviewing Lou, and it was just me and him alone in a room, and I'm just, part of me was just boiling at the fact that I'm sitting, 6 feet away from a guy that could tell me the answers I've spent my whole life trying to find, and he ain't going to do it. And that was very irritating to me. And I carried that anger and resentment for a really long time. But through the course of making Accidental Truth, I started to kind of see things in a different way. And that way is this. These guys are men in a box. None of them asked for this. But once you have this knowledge and you have to sit on it, you can't tell your wife, your kids, your friends. The higher and deeper you are into this program, the less you can reveal. And even if you wanted to blow the whistle, run out right now to walk into the New York Times and say, hey, I've been reverse engineering alien craft, blah, blah, blah. Unless you got one of them with you, you're just going to get buried. And then once you've become that person that goes out and takes that risk, you're going to lose everything. You're going to be totally separated from your career. You're going to face all the legal repercussions. You're going to face all the punishment. And so there's no upside to coming forth as a true whistleblower unless they're able to get something that is definitive. And, like the day that somebody comes out with some kind of space age technology in his hand that doesn't get secreted away in a way that the general public can't get to it to study it, that's what it's going to take. And you can't just come forward with a story on your own like a renegade. And that's why we see guys like Jake Barber, they're coming forward in a very careful, controlled way. And that's why we're not seeing more pilots. We already have enough pilots. They're like, how many more people want to do that? If they needed more pilots, there'd be more pilots coming forward. But you can't do it. You can't just run out of the laboratory at Area 51 and scream aliens without being able to prove it. And there's people that are very dedicated to making sure you will never be able to prove it. Well, so these are men in a box, and they're in a very uncomfortable position. I would never want to be in that position.
Well, some of the people going back in the 80s and 90s that were trying to disclose certain things, they ended up dead.
Yeah, I think the game was played a lot rougher in those days than it's played today.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're still killing people, but maybe they are. I know that I was warned to be careful by a couple of people that should know. Well, making these films, because I'm not playing the game. That's one of the reasons that I've gotten a lot of access, but there's also a lot of access I haven't gotten, because I'm like, don't tell me that you're going to tell me something, but I can't tell anybody. MUFON's whole job is to get information and share it with the world. My job as a journalist in this is not to become part of the problem and become part of the secrecy. If you tell me something and it's explosive, I'm going to figure out a way to put it out. So don't tell me and ask me to become part of your secret little group. I'm just not down for that. And so, yeah, I found myself in a lot of positions I didn't want to be in. And I've been told a lot of stuff I wish I never heard.
Well, you got to be really careful, too. Going back, and JC knows, he was on the air with me. This is when we were doing 3-hour shows instead of the shorter ones. And, we had a particular person on. We were talking about maybe underground base, some strange things were going on. And, all of a sudden, we were in the show about an hour and a half. Above my studios, there was a military helicopter just hovering, and it was rattling the windows. It was rattling everything, and that was, you remember that, JC?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were talking about duns, which were hidden inside this barn. The guy seeing all these vehicles go in the barn, which could not possibly fit in the barn. And we were talking about that, and then you heard the noise, and then you got this email that said 4 words, just so you know.
Yeah, I got that from a weird thing. And on top of it, the next day, one of the people down the street came up to me and they said, you had a military helicopter about 50 feet above your roof. and discovery there. And that kind of scared me for a while. And then we got hacked for about a month after it. We lost like 1,000 episodes of my show. It just like, we were getting hacked right and left. I think I learned my lesson at that point. Now, Ron, we need to take a break, and then we're going to take 1 or 2 phone calls, and then we're going to find out what made you make this movie or, this documentary, how long it took, and what all was involved. So we'll be back with Ron right after this. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. For more information about Ron, go to our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And by the way, JC, you're so vain.
You walked into the party like you were walking onto a yacht. Your hat strategically dipped below one eye. Your scarf, it was apricot. You had one eye in the mirror as you watched yourself go out. And all the girls dreamed that they'd be your partner. They'd be your partner. And you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain. You're so vain. I'll bet you think this song is about you. Don't you? Don't you? Oh, you had me several years ago when I was still quite naive. When you said that we made such a pretty pair and that you would never leave, but you gave away the things you loved, and one of them was me. I had some dreams, they were clouds in my coffee, clouds in my coffee, and you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain. I'll bet you think.
Diving into the headlines of the mysterious and unexplained, this is The Unseen News with Guy Ticker, where the extraordinary is just the beginning. Scientists mystified by massive structures found deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a region of Earth's mantle where conventional wisdom says nothing unusual should exist, scientists have discovered something extraordinary. Using innovative technology to analyze seismic waves, researchers have identified massive structures that challenge fundamental theories about how our planet formed and evolved. It's as if we've discovered a new geological continent, not on Earth's surface, but deep within it. The key to this discovery lies in a sophisticated technique called full waveform inversion, FWI. Unlike traditional methods that analyze only specific types of seismic waves, FWI examines entire seismograms, capturing a more complete picture of Earth's interior. This comprehensive approach requires enormous computational power, but provides unprecedented detail. And that wraps up tonight's top news story. This is Guy Ticker on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Hi, this is Val Von Torn of Metatron Power and Light. You're listening to Gary Anderson and Night Dreams Talk Radio.
And we are back with Ron, and I think we got a call. And caller, who do we have?
You got Art here.
Hi, Art. How are you doing?
Okay. Hi, Ron.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I just like to know that I'd like to tell you that I used to go to my local MUFON, and I guess because of COVID, they closed and went on Zoom. But in going there, they had investigators there, but they didn't seem to be so interested. So I don't know how you feel about, when you're going up there trying to explain you want to give them a couple of sighting issues, and they don't seem to be responding. I think the staff there didn't know half the stuff that they were supposed to know. When we had an encounter there with a hybrid that was visiting, and she's known to be there, so they know. It's not everybody, but so there was staff that did know. And I met the lady, and she told me everything, where she lived and everything. So I got a psychic investigator to admit that she was one. When I just brought the name of, I didn't bring the name up, but I just brought the situation up, and she says, "Oh yeah, we investigated her." But it seems like not everybody was in tune on that same plane there. That was one of the things that I found to be a little.
Art, I want to jump in for a minute. MUFON is not really that much involved with abductions, are they? Aren't they more on about craft?
Well, we do have the Experiencer Resource Team, and we've done some of the best research in the world on the Experiencer phenomenon and published the results. But I think the biggest thing, Art, to understand, when you talk about staff, MUFON is not, it's an all volunteer organization. And every single person that's there doing roles, including me, doing the media relations is practically a full-time job. I don't get paid for doing it. And so when you get into these chapters, people are overworked. They're hearing stuff constantly. And then people are people. It's not like they're going to adhere to their job description, because it's not really a job. So we get a lot of reports. We try to respond to the ones that make the most sense to respond to. People will report UFOs to MUFON's website all the time and be like, "Nobody ever called me back." It's like, we're not going to call everybody back, because we can't. We're going to take the reports, we're going to put them into our database, we're going to add them to the breadth of our data, and then things that have really compelling stuff, like the evidence of if photographic evidence, physical evidence, video evidence, multiple witnesses from multiple locations, those are the cases that will get dispatched. But we have a reporting process that is made to kind of make it easier on everybody, the person reporting and the people that are taking the reports. And so it doesn't surprise me that you were unable to walk up to a MUFON person at a thing and have them drop everything and start writing down your information, because it's impossible to operate that way. But MUFON is the oldest and biggest organization in the business, and we're the best.
When I say on two subjects of orbs, I just want to say I came out my balcony and I saw this soccer ball size orb following some cars right on the intersection across the street from me, and I took a picture of it. It stopped and then responded, and then came over my adjacent apartment rooftop. And the way it came, it was about four apartments down from me, about 40 feet. And I took the second picture, and then it stopped, and it had a liquid in there, and it started to grow to the size of a basketball, and then it disappeared. When you said something about these drones can have some kind of gas, or this one had like a liquid in there, you can see it. And I had another one where this couple were standing next to me, and the son was sitting there, and he said, "Mom, look, there's a UFO." It was about 10 feet away, 9 feet up. A 2-foot size beach ball was just floating there in the alley where we were at. And I noticed the mom and the husband, they were just like blanked out, and they didn't see anything. So they were knocked out. And so basically, this young boy and I, we were just watching this thing moving down the alley. And it always apparently to me that some of the things that I've had experience with were people passed out when something popped out, and others could see, and I have some witnesses with me on different kinds of craft, not just orbs, a cigar shape. I even sent one to Gary. I got 3 of those, but right close up. So these ships and all these things that I've seen, they're like 100 feet up. They're like about 100 yards away, 75 yards away. They seem to stop or react when I catch eye on them, and the way they disappear, and just the way even even the way they come out or the way they leave is totally different. And so the experience I've had of many is just, and these things all have been, on Facebook. You'll go on and you'll see somebody having the same pictures, daytime, nighttime. So we're kind of feeling that that's, what we want. We don't really want to talk about it because what you said, it kind of makes us kind of cringe, and my friends won't talk about it with me. Their stuff that they got, they're embarrassed. And for me, I'm not. I don't care if you want to call me or whatever, but these things are, I got photographs, we got videos of things, but they're not out there far. They're right up in front. So I don't know.
Send me some of that stuff. You can get it directly to me personally at media@mufon.com, and I'll take a look at it myself. The things that you're describing are not uncommon.
Right.
Some people seem to be able to see and interact with these things while the person standing right next to them doesn't know anything's going on. The idea that some people are asleep when it's happening. This is all examples of these subjective realities that we're experiencing when dealing with this phenomenon. Is that no, it doesn't affect everybody the same. And, you find that with the CE5 stuff that's being done, no matter what you happen to think about that, you find it with vastly different descriptions of the same object that we hear. People can see a UFO, and one person thinks it's a seagull, another person thinks it's a flying saucer. And it's showing us, I believe, that we're dealing with a subjective reality that is tailored literally to our own consciousness and our own level of wherever we happen to be in our journey. So I'd be interested in taking a look at the images you have. I won't share them with anybody else without your permission, but that's media@mufon.com, and I'll take a look, Art.
And Art, again, you can contact me and I can, get it to you. Again, when you think about all this, it is still puzzling how certain people respond, how some people notice or have more ability to notice what's going on compared to a lot of people. Now, getting to your documentary, what got you motivated to make a documentary, especially the latest one?
Well, I've made hundreds of hours of content. I've always owned a production company for most of my adult life, but it was when I was hired by Steve Bassett to produce his X conferences that I got to meet all these people that I'd seen on TV for my whole life, that I really liked and respected. And then I was always an armchair UFO guy. I read UFO magazine. I watched, I watched the shows. I watched Chariots of the Gods when I was a kid, and it really had an influence on me. But realizing that this was, arguably the biggest deception ever, and that I could have some small hand in helping to peel away the layers, it was very intriguing to me. And I've always dedicated my media production career to things that added to the conversation: nature, reality, life after death, the UFO question. So I started shooting interviews with people back in 2008, and in Accidental Truth, some of those interviews, I've interviewed Nick Pope maybe 6 times, Colonel John Alexander 5 times. And so I'm able to show this timeline of work that goes back that far. And then I also made the Disclosure Dialogues, which was the definitive film on disclosure at that time. I didn't want to make anything else until I thought I could move the ball. And when I started talking to guys like Lou and Gary, and they were telling me things, then that's when I realized that it was time to make another film, because I had information that I could share that was really going to, for lack of a better word, blow the lid off this whole lie that we were told about the new narrative. And so I did. I exposed it. I went to Congress. I talked to people behind closed doors. In this coming movie, Accidental Truth Next, there's a video of me briefing Tim Burchett about the whole UFO thing going all the way back to Roswell. It's the only video ever taken of a UFO investigator briefing a sitting member of Congress and published. And so when people say, do they really know? Yeah, they know. They're talking to all the people that we can't even talk to. And so with Accidental Truth Next, I moved the ball. People can see it for free. In fact, it's coming up right now on the YouTube page. You just scroll down, you'll see it. YouTube movies. It's free. Got to watch commercials, I guess. But I'm happy that it's out. It's getting millions of views, and I want people to watch that film and be ready for the next one. So go find Accidental Truth if you haven't seen it yet, and watch it for free. In Accidental Truth Next, that's really what it's all about. Ever since I made Accidental Truth, the other predominant filmmakers have been making the same film, and so now I'm making the next film.
And I have that up there where people can see it right now on in
yeah,
YouTube.
That's the artwork for the new one.
Yeah. And all the people listening to us on iHeart and Apple and TuneIn and Speaker, again, you can go to our website at www.nightdreams.radio, get more information, about Ron. We have another caller. Go ahead, caller. Who do we have?
This is Tom.
Well, hi, Tom. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, sir.
Do you getting any snow?
My question for
you getting any snow yet? I know where you're at, so do you getting any snow?
Yeah, intermittently over the last few days, probably 3 or 4 inches.
Yeah, that sounds like me. Anyway, getting back to your question to Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is the UFO phenomena per se is extremely complex. It's more than one thing, and
Absolutely.
I wanted his thoughts on the idea of the fact that extraterrestrially speaking, we're dealing with intelligences that are far more advanced than we are. I wanted to know, however, what he thought about part of that phenomenon, instead of being extraterrestrial, which part of it definitely is, being interdimensional.
Yeah, in Accidental Truth, the first one, we go over these possibilities, and extra dimensional, temporal, possibly traveling through time, intelligent species that have been on planet Earth for a very long time and have advanced technology, extraterrestrials, ethereal beings such as spiritual beings, ghosts, angels, demons, that beings that don't have physical bodies but come into our space. So I think that we have to keep that open mind, and I think that ultimately the answer is going to be all of the above, and each one of these different presences represents a different aspect of reality and different agendas and different things. So yeah, it's not just ETs, it's not just interdimensional ethereal beings. It's a variety of things, including life forms that we probably haven't even figured out yet. They're now talking about these orbs as being something called plasmoids that may actually be a form of life, and this is being acknowledged by government studies. So any closed doors to what might constitute life and what may be interacting with us, they shouldn't be closed, because the answer is it's all of this probably, and then also a whole lot of things we can't even imagine yet. We're not even asking the right questions for the right answers, and our understanding of space and time and how dimensions work and the whole fabric of reality, for that matter, we don't know. And so I don't even know if we have the brain capacity to grasp the complicated nature of all of this. It's quite possible that we don't. But what you just said is absolutely important to the conversation. It's not just going to be one thing. It's going to be a lot of things. Hope that wasn't too long.
I really appreciate your extensional viewpoint on this. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Now, how long did it take you on your latest documentary to make it?
Accidental Truth took me about a year of editing, and some of the shooting went back to 2008. But Accidental Truth Next has taken me way too long. I have people that are getting a little aggravated with me. But what happens is it's going to end up being about a year of editing and about a year of shooting. And that year of shooting is also thinking about it. Because it's not like you just come up with an idea, you're going to make the next movie. Accidental Truth was a pinnacle film, And so there's a lot of pressure to make something else that really moves the ball. And it's a crowded field with other people that are making films. You know, James Fox is a friend of mine. He does good stuff. So at the end of the day, thinking about it took almost as much time as actually working on it. Now I'm in final assembly right now. I'm a month or two away from having a cut that I can start showing people. But yeah, I'd say about 2 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, for this, the other thing that makes it more complicated is that we're moving on such a fast moving landscape. When Accidental Truth came out, it was like 2 weeks later that we got David Grush. And so I was told by a lot of people inside that I talked to that our film was one of the reasons they accelerated moving forward with some of these disclosures. I don't know if it's true, but I have been told that. What happens is it's 3 months from the time you finish a film till the time it comes out. And every time I think I'm closing the window on shooting for Accidental Truth, I'm not adding any more to the story, some big bombshell happens that I feel like I have to get in. And so you end up just on this endless treadmill of, well, I don't want to stop, because if I stop right now, the film's going to come out and people are going to go, oh yeah, we already knew that, and all this has happened. So that's the challenge. It's an ever evolving landscape. Things are happening fast, and there's a big delay between the time you finish the film and the time it comes out that just has you gritting your teeth the whole time.
I still feel sorry for some of these people that are making these weird claims about disclosure, about ETs, you know, being... Here's the one thing. It really has puzzled me. You know, I've interviewed so many people, and they, you know, 99.9 of them said the ETs are not hostile. They're not hostile. They would never hurt mankind. But I look at biblical times of man, Cain and Abel. What did they do? And we look at wars are ongoing on this planet, murder and killing nonstop. And then if you look at an advanced civilization, you know, maybe the ones that come knocking on our doors so far have been, you know, where they don't want to interfere really. But how about the one that maybe comes next week or tonight or next year and might be a little bit more hostile? That's the things if the government knows any of this stuff, we should be told.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thing that you bring up, and there's two aspects to it. People ask all the time when they're interviewing me, why do you think it's such a secret? Aren't we ready for the truth? And that answer used to be just a blanket. Of course we're ready for the truth. But I've had to refine that over the years to bring in, well, what's the context of the truth? If the truth is we're surrounded by non-human intelligence, they interact with us a little bit, but, you know, you can live your life, they're not going to hurt us. You know, then everybody just goes, yeah, we knew it, keep us posted, and they go back to whatever they're doing. But if it's, we have no control over these things, we don't know what their intentions are, we have no power, we're at their mercy, and it might not be good, well, that's when you have this giant negative shift in things that absolutely interfere with society. So it's the context of the disclosure that really makes the biggest difference as far as that.
Well, that's the type of thing I wish some of these whistleblowers would come through and give us a little bit of a hint, you know?
Look, I can tell you, I've been told things that I wish I hadn't been told. And the fact of the matter is, this is not all rosy. It's not all good at all. I'm just going to take a flight of fancy here, nothing that hasn't been discussed before. But when you talk about flesh and blood extraterrestrial beings, the universe is teeming with life. There's a loose association of spacefaring species, call it the Galactic Federation, whatever you want. They don't all get along. They don't all have the same agendas, but they possess so much destructive firepower that it's senseless to not have an uneasy peace. Now, when you have a planet like this, Earth is a piece of prime real estate. It's worth a lot. The beings and the creatures that are created on this planet can have a variety of different outcomes. And at some point, this human experiment was allowed to self-determine, which meant hands off, let's see what they do. Perhaps they can evolve into a promising race. It can evolve into a successful race. And we have been kind of self-determining all along, but we've also been interfered with in small ways by these different factions. There's some that would like to welcome us into a galactic family, and there's others that think we should just be swept under and recycle the planet. Let's start again. So at the end of the day, there are multiple agendas for the outcome of the planet, and it's really up to us to manifest the best one, which is where we finally do get admission into this galactic federation. We become a spacefaring species, and we keep our autonomy. We don't get taken over by AI or machines or, controlled by other species. So all of this is going on in my belief, and I think that that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with our own self-determination. And what's crazy, Gary, is that the answer to all of it, the positive evolution of humanity, is the same answer that's been given to us from the most ancient of spiritual teachings. We're taking this whole thing of UFOs and extraterrestrials and what it means, and we're looking at it like it's something new, but it's telling us the same thing it's always told us. We have to have our act together. We have to be a benevolent, loving species. We will reap a future that is worthy of that mindset. Or we can be these warlike, nasty creatures that kill each other and take advantage of other species, and then we're going to be part of that. It's live by the sword, die by the sword. And humanity, the answers are all around us. Everybody out there should make an individual decision that we're going to be the highest and best creatures we can be. And we're going to experience a future that is just off the charts cool. And if we can't get there, then we're going to experience a different future. And that's just how it is. Rather there's ETs or not. If pretend there's no aliens, there's no talk of extraterrestrials, it's just us people. If we keep going down a certain path, we're going to self-destruct, the planet's going to be ruined, we're all going to be dead. If we go down another path, we're going to flourish and blossom until eventually we are the aliens. So it's up to us. And we don't need ET to tell us the answers. We need our own hearts and our own souls and our own personal journeys to be the ones that take us to the positive destination.
Well,
and at the end of the day, it's the same teachings we've been taught since teachings were teachable.
Well, I just look at, we haven't changed as a society. I don't think we're ever going to reach a level 1, as Michio Kaku said, civilization at the rate we're going. That is the scary part, because, again, every day in the news, murder, killing, wars. I mean, people are, when I was a young kid, I was always worried about a nuclear war because I would read the newspaper. I was like 10, 11 years old, and they were talking about a war between the Soviet Union and United States. We had to go under, tables in our school just in case, practice for a case there was a nuclear war to protect ourselves, which wouldn't have done anything. But we haven't advanced. We're still the same way. And
I don't
again,
know. Think about this, Gary. Think about this for a minute. The amount of people murdered per capita, the amount of brutality in war per capita is at the lowest it's ever been in recorded history. We are collectively less violent. Now, are we still doing horrible things? Yes. But are the majority of us not doing those things? Yes. Where if back in the day when they were putting people's heads on sticks and they were doing crusades where they're wiping out entire populations in the name of religion, the amount of people that were murdered by other people compared to the population of the planet was fairly significant compared to today. Now, what's going on in Ukraine and the horrible warfare that we're seeing, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's reminiscent of the worst things humanity's ever done. But it's not happening on a scale that equals the scale that it's happened on in the past.
But Ron, if you take the Middle East and you take African countries and you take all these other, it's this all over the world. And if I was an ET, I wouldn't step on this planet because you know what would happen? If
it's dangerous.
They would, you know what they would do? They would be put in a cage and experimented on.
Oh, absolutely. They probably are. That's the thing. That's why, like, if there's some kind of race that actually lives here on the planet, and they're inside the Earth, which, let's face it, if you're going to survive on planet Earth, you don't want to be on the surface. It's a no-win situation. You're going to have to go underground. They can't reveal themselves to us because we're just going to be like, oh, we must kill them. We must take what they have. But at the end of the day, there's hope for humanity, and it all starts with individuals. And there's nothing about what the ETs are teaching us that we haven't been taught by other teachings. And I'm not bringing up any religion or spirituality or anything else. I'm just saying it seems to be the same. The ETs are telling experiencers the same thing that traditional spiritual teachings have told people throughout the world. And so it's up to us. And we're in crunch time. The planet's bursting at the seams with human beings. It's not going to support too many more people. We're on the verge of destroying it. We are at the apex of our evolution in this version of humans. And so we're either going to make it past this, or we're going to suffer some kind of self-imposed or forced cataclysm that is going to set us back, and maybe we never recover. And it's still up to us to shape that outcome. Well, I believe that collectively we can do it.
Yeah, Ron, I feel this planet has been rebooted once or twice in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And at the rate it's going, I tell you what, society has really changed. If you go back, you're young, but go back to like the 50s, late 50s and 60s. What did you see? TV shows like Father Knows Best. Yeah. Leave It to Beaver. What did they teach? They taught love and family values. You don't see that anymore. Society is changing. As it's changing, it's getting bad. And that's what, if we want to go to a civilization level 1, we need to go back to our values in this country.
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge some of the people in the comments on YouTube. There's some interesting things being brought up.
Yeah. Well, anything you want to say? And do you have a website you want to share and all that stuff?
You can find out more about the movie and keep up with it at accidentaltruthswithans.com. I recommend anybody that cares about this topic, become a member of MUFON. It's inexpensive. You get the free live stream of the symposium if you sign on as an enhanced member. And even if you don't want to be a field investigator, we're the oldest, biggest organization studying this topic. And the more of you that are involved, the more people like Art will find what they're looking for within the organization. And we're still the best game in town. I joke around. It's like, join MUFON, find your friends. And it's true. And so whatever people might have thought about MUFON in the past, it's a completely evolved organization. And it's where you will find the resources you need and the people you want to be around to help us all get through the revelations that we're going to be dealing with.
So very well put. Hey, Ron, I want to thank you for coming on, and let's not make it 4 years again before you come back on.
No, you know what? I'm going to be doing the tour for Accidental Truth next. Oh, I should say, it's going to be the world premiere of Accidental Truth next will be at Contact in the Desert. So, if you're planning on being there, you'll get a chance to see the film for free before the rest of the world sees it. I think the release date's going to be somewhere in there. But Accidental Truth next, narrated again by Matthew Modine, special appearance by actor Thomas Jane.
Hi, Thomas, by the way, is a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been on the show a lot.
He's going to be at my studio on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, say hi for me, will you?
We're actually shooting interviews during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, say hi for me, will you?
I will.
Yeah. Okay, my friend, Ron, you take care. And again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me. And anybody out there, you can reach me. It's media@mufon.com. I like to hear from people.
Great. Well, you take care, my friend.
And watch Accidental Truth for free on YouTube or Amazon free with Prime.
Yeah, I did, and it's worth the watch. You know what, JC? We got a lot of great shows coming up here, don't we?
Great topics.
Oh, yeah. Who do we have next week on the show?
Well, next Thursday, we have Craig.
You're breaking up. I can't even hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. Breaking up. Weird.
Well, you can find out who our guest is next week by going to our website tomorrow at nightdreamstalkradio.com. And again, if somebody wants to give a quick call, Art, if you're still out there, or Tom, if you want to give a call and tell me what your thoughts are on disclosure. I'm going to open up the lines here, and we can take one or two calls before I sign off there. And hopefully JC can figure out what's going on with your system.
Yeah, I don't know. Rick still is.
Yeah, it still is. Did you pay your power bill?
What? Well, yeah, I tried to. Maybe didn't get the bill.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe the ETs are after you right now.
Yeah, they're playing games with my audio.
Could be. But anyway, I think we had a great show tonight. And, again, disclosure. All I want is the truth. And that's what we all need, is the truth. And not all the hype. Like I mentioned, I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and some of these hosts on there, they'll bring some guy off the streets making all these weird claims as a whistleblower. And I'm telling you, that does so much damage to what we're trying to prove, that there's life out there visiting us.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think like he touched on, I think most of it is originally from here anyway, and from the oceans or wherever.
Or something.
Yes. As a matter of fact, next Thursday, you asked, we have Craig Campbell Boso coming on. He written a whole book, Gary, about different types of alien beings and races and where they're from and what they're doing and all kinds. This is going to be fascinating. He's talking about all types of ETs from all over.
That's going to be interesting. Who's our other guest?
I'm excited to have Michael Schrack come back on. It's been a while since he's been on. He is going to be talking about retrievals and crashes, and he's an artist, and he's one heck of a researcher. And he illustrates. He draws the scenes of like Roswell crash or any other New Mexico crash or any other crash, and he researches it and lays it all out. So he's going to be fascinating.
It sounds like it. I think we got a caller here before we sign off.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Artie.
Well, hi, Artie.
Hey, hi, I'm sorry. Yeah, love the guy. Yeah, Ronnie is kind of was feeling a little frustrated there for the beginning. I felt like nobody's caring when he says, sometimes we're out here, we're seeing things, and we're afraid to show people things because we don't get any kind of good response from the people out here that seem to be like sheep or drones, or what I want to call them. But, to have somebody believe, like when I talked to Art Bell and I told him about the Shadow Man, I was the first caller. And at the end, he said, I believe you. And it made me feel so good on that.
Well,
and that MUFON. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you have to understand with MUFON, too, a lot of people are new on MUFON. They're new investigators, or, again, they have to deal with so many people. Right. It's really hard for them to, respond. And you have to understand, Art, a lot of people make a lot of claims to these people. I've been doing this, like I said, 56 years. I've had a lot of people that, have made claims that when I checked it out, they weren't real. So they get bombed with that. You realize MUFON gets literally a ton of people contacting them a day about encounters.
Right. I would go once a month, and I met a lot of people there, but there was a staff change, and so I was with the old staff, and we would go eat at the restaurant down the street after hours and spend half the night talking about stuff, and we would bring the guest speaker, and we would have chats and stuff. But there was a little uneasiness because some people didn't seem to feel that they were there first, and a new group came in, and they were very quiet. So you had this in between of here's this new staff there collecting the money and doing the things, and I thought, oh wow, there's a little rift here. But when I noticed that some of the people there, they were very well, had encounters and stuff, and it was something that was like a family in a sense when I was going, and I loved it. I really did. And Barbara Lee was there, and she was talking about reptilian hybrids and reptilians. And people were laughing and giggling. But after the show, after the meeting, I walked up to her and told her about my encounter, and she just looked at me and smiled. But that's the beauty of things when you have somebody at least gives you the acknowledgement. It makes you feel a lot more, especially when Ron came out at this end part. Boy, when he brought up that some people can see these things and have encounters and others don't. Yes, that's all I'm trying to get across, because there's a lot of us out there who feel that, we've seen things, had encounters with them directly and around us all the time, and yet we can't really...
Yeah, but Ron, I mean, Art, you have to understand this. A lot of people, they're not into ufology. They're not into it at all. They're into music or cars or whatever they're into, movies. I don't know.
Right.
And a lot of people don't look up in the sky. They don't look.
Right.
And so therefore, when people talk about they had an encounter this or they saw that, they kind of like, well, I never seen anything like that in my entire life. So they kind of just blow you off. And that's what, the problem is. Because of what has happened in the last couple of years, with the drones and going back before that, more people are looking in the sky than ever. And then they got a question now. The question, Art, is what are these objects out there? That's
right. And Ron did say something about being angelic and stuff. And I agree with that, because seeing some of these crafts that transform from a craft, from a commercial craft to a cube bar, I would call it, like a cigar shape, but cube bar, rectangle. And when I saw this triangle come 60 feet right above me, and it turned into a twin engine airplane, and it was like it's trippy to tell you these things, but it's right there 60 feet up, and then and then they disappear. And it's the way that, are they interdimensional? Are they from, what is it? What is it these things could
they
be?
could
look
be
like
also,
ours.
They could also be coming uncloaked and cloaking again. So you got to look
and then they cloak and uncloak differently. That's the amazing thing. Not all of them do the same, and some, even they're different crafts, kind of come out the same way and cloak the same way, but they're not the same. And so when you see so many that I've seen, and then there's people who come out and on television. We had one in Long Beach over here. Some guy videotaped it, and I was looking at it with my binoculars. 2 days later, it was on the local news. Another one that I was looking at came on the local news. And so people are videotaping, the news is putting them out. And then I had mines that I probably sent you a few. The thing zigzagging in front of me is the one that I saw that was on television, the one I was looking with my binoculars. So, you just get confirmations, and it's hard to say these things moving that fast and quick that they're drones. And, it's hurtful when you get a lot of people just say, oh, yeah, right, sure. And then now when these drones came out, people are starting to figure that out. And their size of cars. We're thinking of drones like the little kitty drones. But we've seen these ones over here, and the ones I sent you, the guy's got 5 in our area where I live. He's got a 5 on video, and I know where he's at, and he's filming it. And then the same day over in another area where I live, there was another guy. He has one of them. He's videotaping it in streets where I was raised up at. And then I saw one myself. That was I believe it was a police drone, because it was very low to the ground, and it looked like a star for a moment, and then by the time I was going to take a picture of it, it stopped. It turned into like a bat wing and went right over, about 150 feet, right over a group of us, and we're looking at it, and it had a red and blue light on it. But I remember the chief of police at meeting saying, "Well, we're going to start having drones operation around our streets." To be first responders, so that they don't have to send a bunch of cars to an incident. So these are things that are coming out, that are being told to us. Plus, when we had the fire and all those drones, or in the other state we had drones. Yeah, you're right. They started coming out, and people are starting to question, because there's the other that says, well, what are those other things? And I think we're on the part. We're on the part of what are those other things, angelic, like Ron said, or they can't, it's just so much. And I'm so excited. Thank you, Gary. I just want to tell you that. It's just your show came out, and I don't know how I got onto it, but I just love it. And it's allowing, like myself, to explain to others. And when I'm on Facebook and explaining to others, I bring others in, because they say, I saw something. Thank you for saying it. I feel better. And next thing you know it, I've made believers and people in interest. That's what we got to do. Wake up. That's our disclosure for the average community person, that is afraid to share it.
Yeah,
and I feel
right.
like we're getting out there. So I just wanted to thank Ron. That was at the end, man. I just started feeling a little bit more comfortable. I thought it was going to feel like I'm embarrassed to even say anything anymore. So now I feel okay, and I'm learning to, take my time. You're always going to be there for us. So I got so much that I want to say, but that's good. I'll send them some things and share with others. And it's just something that you don't get that from the average other talk shows that I've seen. You don't get a chance. So thank you for that. I'd like to really put a shout out to everybody. Call in. It's just something that we need to hear from others.
You're so right. Well, Art, hey, I got to let you go. I want to thank you so much. And you try to stay out of trouble this weekend, will you?
I will. Okay, thank you.
Okay, my friend. You know what? What do you got planned this weekend, JC?
Well, this weekend I'm going to, Sunday I'm going to watch the Super Bowl with my family. But other than that, you know what? I'm going to straighten up my studio a little bit and do some, what do you call it? Reinvent it. Do some.
You mean you're going to get rid of that musical background, that hum?
Yeah, that. Yeah, that.
Yeah. I really enjoyed having Ron. I didn't realize it was 4 years since he was on. That's a long time.
It's been a while. He was great. Great guest tonight. Well, listeners really loved him on this end from everything I've seen.
Yeah. For more information about his new video, go to our website at nightdreamstalkradio.com. You know what, people? You got to be not scared to call in. You got to, that's the problem nowadays. JC, a lot of people don't call into shows anymore because they just listen to podcasts. They feel, hey, I can just listen. I don't have to call in. And we're family. And, I expect family members to kind of voice their opinions once in a while.
You got to call in once in a while and let us know what's going on. Well, how do you feel about, whether it be the Bigfoot, if we're talking about Bigfoot, or UFOs, we're talking about UFOs. Maybe you've seen one of these car-sized SUV drones. Let us know what happened.
Yeah, well, I've seen a couple strange things, and I tell you what, I don't want to see any more. I'll tell you that.
Quit looking in the mirror, Gary.
Abby Lowe, we need to get him back on.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of Abby.
Yeah, we need to find out what's going on with them. Well, I'm going to jump out of here. Again, I want to thank December, Tom, Art, Patty, and everybody else out there that has been on chat here tonight for listening. Please, give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. That's very important because we got sponsors. They look at those comments. And if they see a show with not any comments, they maybe we shouldn't advertise on that show. And that's very important for us. That's what pays the light bill here. You know that, JC.
It does, but it's either a lot of donations or at least...
What donations?
Right. If you're not going to donate, at least leave a comment after the show's over. Go back in, put a comment, how you felt about the show and the guest.
Yeah. We wouldn't have, if we had people like on some shows make donations, we wouldn't have to have advertising.
Yeah, it'd be less.
No, I take that back. I want to buy a Rolls Royce next year.
Oh, one of them Matchbox or a real one?
No, I want to buy a real one, a 1966.
Oh, okay.
Real rosewood inside.
Oh, I'm going to get me one of them Aston Martins then.
Yeah, or Porsche. You'd look good in a Porsche with that buffed head of yours.
Oh, my head's not buffed, I'll have you know.
Yeah, well, part of it is. Anyway, till next week. Oh, do you have a show next week?
Yeah, we're going to have Bill Hall's coming on. He wrote a book about the poltergeist case that happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Mind-blowing. The Warrens were on it and everything.
And where can they find it at? On what's it called? And where can they find it? What app? What would they type in to find your show?
They will find it on the Spreaker app. That's the best place to find it. Seriously, that'd be the.
But what's the name of your frickin' show?
Oh, that one is the Paranormal Dr. J.C. James Creechbaum. That's my podcast. Make sure you check out. No, I'm not a real doctor, but
well, you are a doctor in the paranormal.
I am. I picked that up because I used to help people, a lot of people with paranormal problems.
Yeah. Well, when I look in the mirror, I don't see myself. Is that paranormal?
That's something. I don't know.
Of course, the last time I looked in the mirror, it shattered.
Well, you need to get a new mirror then.
I need to get a lot of new things. Anyway, everybody have a good one. We'll catch you on the other side. Again, tell your friends about us. Give us a thumbs up and leave a comment about the show, about a guest, me, or whatever. Please, good, bad, ugly, whatever, leave a comment. We'll talk to you on the other side next Thursday. Same channel, same time, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Night Dreams Talk Radio. My name is Gary Anderson. I've been a broadcaster for 56 long years. At the same time, they invented the wagon wheel. We'll be back next week.
Who's friends with all the night dreamers, talking to you at night? Gary on the radio, but maybe he's not in sight. Bigfoot's on his tail, flying UFOs, that's right. Gary's Talk Show Radio, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Dreamers Talk Show.